Welcome, travelers, to my realm of nightmares. Allow me to be your personal assistant. Come in, take a seat, get comfortable. For when you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.
The clock had just struck 7 as the first traces of night began to gradually darken the skyline. It was All Hallows Eve. A quaint, picturesque street lined with historic houses, adorned with various Halloween decor, bustled with activity. Costume-clad children and adults alike littered the streets with their candy bags in hand, with only one goal in mind, that being to stock up on sweet treats and the thrill of the hunt that comes along with it. Though this particular street was in the campus district next to the town's prestigious university, many trick-or-treaters occupied the area regardless. Mandie Price bruised herself while placing tea lights inside of each jack-o'-lantern. She and the 2 young women she lived with had carved. Once satisfied with the yellowish-orange glow of the lights inside the pumpkins, she emptied several bags of candy into a giant bowl on the porch. After placing a handwritten sign that said, "Take 1," by the bowl, Mandie admired her handiwork. Satisfied, she turned and gandered out the neighborhood. Fall was her favorite season of the year, just as Halloween was her favorite holiday. A cool breeze suddenly drifted through the autumn-hued trees, blowing the fallen, scattered leaves across the yard in droves. Mandie's raven locks blew in the wind. As a result, she shivered and then headed back inside. She joined her 2 housemates, Rose and Lady, in the kitchen. Mandie exclaimed, "I am so glad we decided to stay in tonight. It looks like rain soon." Lady shook her head to agree and replied, "Me too. Besides, Halloween parties on campus just aren't the same since the pandemic and all the social distancing rules now. Remember last year?" "Oh well, we can have plenty of fun in our pajamas, stuffing our faces with junk food and watching horror movies," Rose said with glee. The other girls agreed in unison and began to set everything up in the living room. They ordered pizza and ate while watching the movie Halloween, which was the first on our list of so-called scary films for the night. After a few hours passed, and the trio had lit a fire in the fireplace and commenced with making s'mores. With their stomachs full, they lounged around the fire's warmth, and they did their yearly tradition of telling ghost stories. Only the dancing flames from the fire illuminated the expanse of the living room, setting the atmosphere for the spooky tales. A few stories were told. The 3 began talking of urban legends, mythological creatures, and other lore. Mandie spoke up and asked, "What do you 2 think about Bloody Mary?" Lady faked a yawn, while Rose replied, "I've always found the subject of Bloody Mary fascinating. Mind if I tell the alleged true tale?" "Oh, bother," Lady huffed, while Mandie responded with an excited, "Yes, please." Rose crossed her legs and sat Indian style on the floor, and she began to explain. "The legend says that if you turn off all the lights, light a candle, and huddle around the mirror, you gaze into the mirror and chant 'Bloody Mary' 3 times. Some people insist you chant it up to 13 times, but I've always been told it's 3 times. After doing this, the apparition is said to appear of a woman with blood dripping down her face, aka Bloody Mary. She will either try to scratch out your eyes or scare you to death and consume your soul. Anyone who looks directly upon her face is said to die." Lady let out a laugh of disbelief and said, "Huh, you're right. What a load of crap. It never actually worked. I've tried it with some friends before, and nothing ever happened. It was lame." Rose narrowed her eyes at Lady and scoffed. Believe what you want. I've heard stories of it actually working. There are rumors that the most effective way to summon her is if they do it alone and not with friends. It has to be someone who is pure of heart, who believes in the spirit world completely. Only then can an entity such as Mary make contact into the world of the living. Also, it has to be on Halloween. That part is most important. The room grew still for a moment. Mandie pulled her sweater more tightly around herself. From where she sat on the couch, goosebumps rode her skin. She wasn't sure why. She wasn't easily frightened, but Rose's words had chilled her. Lady rolled her eyes and crooned, "Hogwash. Show me proof is what I say. Sounds like a bunch of baloney." Rose shook her head and replied, "As I said, believe what you like. You're probably acting tough because you're too chicken to try it." Rose began flapping her arms in an upward and then downward motion, mimicking the wings of a chicken. She then made chicken noises in Lady's direction. Lady tossed one of the small pillows from the couch and shouted, "Shut up, you goof! I'm not chicken. However, I could definitely go for some chicken nuggets right about now. I told you that I already tried it and nothing happened. Besides, I have something much better we can try." Lady smirked at the two girls, whose curiosity had piqued. She then teased, "That is, if you two aren't chicken." "Screw you. I'm not chicken," Rose defended as she threw the pillow back at Lady. Lady giggled. "True, you're more like a scaredy cat." "Meow, meow." Mandie sighed and blurted out, "Enough, you two. Lady, what do you have in mind?" Lady flashed a mischievous grin and then said, "Well, I heard a similar story to Bloody Mary, but it's much more recent. Not many people have tried it. I think we should." "Go on," Mandie urged with interest evident in her voice. "People call the story Bloody Matty. Basically, the same legend applies like Bloody Mary, but you say Bloody Matty instead. Who is he supposed to be?" Lady shot Rose an incredulous look, then snapped, "Matty's Shadows? Duh! Only our favorite singer of all time." "Ho, whoa," Rose muttered in response, feeling flabbergasted. Matty's Shadows was, after all, the lead singer of the girls' favorite rock band for many years. They had been diehard fangirls throughout their teens. They attended many of the band's concerts and had been devastated when just a year prior, Matty had passed away in a gruesome motorcycle accident. "Let's do it," Rose said giddily. Mandie then spoke with hesitation in her voice. I don't know about this. Isn't it kind of disrespectful? I mean, Matty was a real person, and I'm not sure if we should disturb his spirit or whatever." "Don't be a party pooper. Nothing will happen, most likely. Anyway, besides, who doesn't want to see Matty's handsome face again? He was so hot," Lady exclaimed, as she play-fanned herself with her hand. Mandie wasn't fond of the idea, but didn't protest. Not long after, all three girls had gathered in front of a mirror in one of the bathrooms. Rose shut off the lights, while Mandie held a lit candle. Lady cracked her knuckles for dramatic effect and gazed directly into the mirror. With a smirk on her face, she began to call out the name Bloody Matty. Each time, she would pause a few seconds in between just to build up anticipation in the other two girls. Lady uttered Bloody Matty one last time. The three girls waited expectantly in suspense. The bathroom remained silent, and to their disappointment, nothing happened. Lady groaned and snapped, "See, told you nothing would happen. What a complete waste of time." Rose replied, "Yeah, you were right. What a bust." As the three girls made their way back to the living room, Mandie was somewhat relieved nothing had happened. Still, a small part of her kind of wished it had. After the remaining snacks were put away and the living room was straightened up, Everyone retired to their room to get ready for bed. Mandie settled into her bed for the night, but Googled through several articles about Bloody Matty on her phone. Despite her attempt to sleep, Mandie could only toss and turn. She just couldn't get the Bloody Matty thing out of her mind. She also knew that if she was going to try it on her own, she had to do it right away, before midnight, because Halloween would soon be over. After checking to make sure her housemates were well asleep, Mandie quietly padded down the dark hallway of their home. Only the glow of the candle she carried lit her way, along with the lightning that occasionally flashed through the windows. Entering the foyer, Mandie gazed upon the massive Victorian-style full-length mirror before her. She took a deep breath and stepped forward till she stood directly in front of the mirror, just mere inches from it. Rain pattered upon the roof outside, as did Mandie's heart against her ribcage inside. Sure, she had her doubts that nothing would happen, but she had always believed in the spirit world wholeheartedly. Her two housemates' beliefs didn't match the level of hers, as they were both big-time skeptics. With the candle raised in hand, Mandie gazed at her own reflection in the mirror. She had made up her mind, and there was no going back. Her tongue darted out to moisten her lips before she muttered Bloody Matty for the first time. She quickly matched that by repeating it a second time. A loud crack of thunder echoed abruptly through the house, startling Matty and causing her to jump. She thought to herself, maybe this is a sign I shouldn't be doing this. Still, she quickly pushed the thought aside, and the name Bloody Matty tumbled out of her mouth for the third and final time. As soon as the words left her lips, the gigantic mirror began to violently shake. Mandie jumped back, nearly dropping the candle in the process. She blinked rapidly to be sure that it was all actually happening. Mandie's gaze then was drawn back to the mirror, where a human-like shape began to form. Her sight fixated upon faded denim jeans that were tattered and had various rips in the fabric. Mandie's eyes then traveled up their way to a torso and a chest housed in a black leather jacket. Long brown hair dangled over broad shoulders, and splatters of crimson married nearly every inch of the figure's clothing. That was well enough confirmation for Mandie to know that it was in fact the spirit of Bloody Matty. It took nearly all of her strength to will her eyes not to look up at his face. Mandie was frozen in fear and disbelief. Her feet may as well have been glued to the floor. She could feel her heart beating in her throat. It wasn't until a large tattooed hand withdrew from inside the mirror and gripped the outside of the frame that Mandie's flight mode kicked in. She let out a shrill, terrified scream as she bolted down the hall as fast as she could. Making a mad dash through the doorway of her room, Mandie slamming the door and locked it. She then dove into her bed, immediately covering herself head to toe with a blanket. She felt like a scared child again. But this was no time to be embarrassed. There was a serious threat just down the hall. To her horror, Mandie heard the doorknob to her bedroom begin to shake and rattle loudly, but she didn't dare uncover herself from the blanket. Just as quickly as the rattling started, it came to an abrupt halt. The room was left in silence, once again, aside from the storm that still raged on outside. Mandie relaxed a bit and thought maybe she just imagined the entire thing. Perhaps she was just dreaming. Perhaps she would wake up in the morning and everything would be normal, like it always was. Mandie was suddenly ripped from her thoughts when she felt a mighty pressure come down upon her body, the heavy weight beginning to press down into the mattress. She thrashed around as much as she could and cried out terrified screams as she did. The force from the figure had pinned her and trapped her in place. Deep male laughter began to boom throughout the room. It was then Mandie recognized that voice belonged to Bloody Matty. This was all real, or so it seemed. Even so, Mandie managed to free her fingers enough to pinch her thigh, even though her arms were still trapped to her side. She was desperately trying to wake herself up, or at least confirm that she wasn't in fact just having some awful nightmare. "This isn't real. It's just a dream. Wake up, Mandie," she chanted in an attempt to convince herself. More laughter echoed around the room. till Bloody Matty said,
"This is real. I am real."
In one unnaturally swift motion, the blankets was yanked away from Mandie, exposing her body from the shoulder up.
"Now, look at me."
Bloody Matty's voice commanded and roared. Mandie couldn't help herself. Her eyes shot open on their own accord. Out of shock and curiosity, her breath caught in her throat. She came face to face with Bloody Matty. She had no choice. He still had her pinned to the bed, with no escape. Mandie gazed on in absolute terror at his gruesome visage, his once handsome face now gaunt and covered with gashes. Blood trickled and oozed from his wounds and seeped down into the strands of his long hair. If that wasn't enough of a horror show, the once dazzling hazel eyes he possessed were now nothing but two black pools. The sclera and iris of his eyes were completely jet black. Looking at them was like staring into a dark abyss. Time seemed to be lost, as Mandie was too frozen in fear to move or make a sound. She'd never been so petrified in all her life. Thoughts raced and spread through her head. The biggest question that burned through her mind was, what was he going to do to her? As if on cue, Bloody Matty grinned, as if he had read her mind. His sickening smile only parted long enough for him to say,
"You are mine."
The next morning, Mandie sat in her living room with the lead police detective while the other investigators occupied the rest of the house and worked the scene. Tears steadily flowed from the corner of Mandie's eyes as the detective explained, "I just don't understand how this all happened. It appears that both of your housemates suffered cardiac arrest on the same night. There doesn't appear to be any sign of a break-in, foul play, or a culprit to what caused the incident. I think it's best if you find somewhere else to stay until the investigation is over. Very sorry for your loss. I'll be in touch soon, and you will need to answer some more questions in the future, but that can wait for now. Take care, miss." Mandie dabbed at her tears with a tissue and rose to her feet. She gave the detective a quick handshake and replied, "Thank you, detective. Trust me, I will." She turned to walk away, and as she did, a wide grin spread across her face as her once blue eyes faded to all black. Tonight's story was day 8 of my 13 Days of Halloween, and the story was from Mandie Mortem. It was titled Bloody Matty. If you enjoyed this story, please check out her channel. She's a talented author, narrator, and a great friend of this channel. Her links will be in the description below. Hey, did you know I have merch? Yeah, crazy, right? But I do. And if you would like to walk around representing my realm and gaining me new travelers, the links will be in the description below. As always, I'd like to say a special thank you to my lovely Patreons, to 42 Reads, Rando Calrissian, Pam, Sidaphine, the Midnight Bard, Creepy Clown Girl, Mia Mina, Philia Noctis, Hair Raising Narratives, and Spooky Boo Scary Story Time. If you'd like to join these lovely travelers but are light on my fire, you can do so by becoming a Patreon as well. The support is always appreciated but never expected. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you're new, and ding that bell for all future content.
But as always, travelers, once you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.